In opening government, we have Mahidol speaking first. Is Upperidge, prefer pronoun he. Speaking second is Kakitaya, prefer pronoun she. Apologies by Mango and pronunciation. In opening opposition, IIUM speaking first is Eric, prefer pronoun he. Speaking second, Sadiq, prefer pronoun he. In closing government, a swing team from SLL speaking first, Michael, prefer pronoun he. Speaking second is Coco, prefer pronoun she. And in closing opposition, it's IIUM 4. Speaking first is Fal, prefer pronoun he, and speaking second is Mario, prefer pronoun she. On the motion that as the feminist movement, we will prioritize advocating for the research and development of artificial wombs, the Prime Minister. Get the door. Just move it. Yeah, cool.
There still currently exists an imbalance within the society between the male and the female, and this leads from many reasons. One of these reasons why male and female are still not yet equal within the society is the biological reasons themselves. It's because that females themselves will have the when bearing a baby, the female is the one who needs to do the most work. Since they are the one who has to actually physically hold the baby for 9 months, and which is something that the male doesn't have to do. And this itself could be a disadvantage for the woman in order for when they have to do other things, for example, because it prevents them from doing other things that they may otherwise do because of the physical body themselves. And so in many of the cases, women who wants to have a baby yet still has to work has got to make this sort of trade-off between whether they want to have a baby but be a bit not able to do as many things physically, or to not have a baby but be able to excel in their work. And we see that this is a certain trade-off that women shouldn't have to make. Now, the feminist movement themselves is a group of people who fight for the equality of women, so that they're able to receive the same amount of rights and be able to get the same opportunity for both groups, for the women and the men. And we see that for the feminist movement themselves, being able to use artificial wombs for the woman is a way that they could achieve such goals, so that the woman is able to receive them, is able to get more opportunities, and be able to play out on a more level playing field as the men themselves, right? And so what we believe needs to be done is that we need to have that feminist movement should endorse such research of the artificial wombs. And we're gonna first support such research to go on. And then once this research is seen as ready enough and safe enough for human usage, we see that we can then implement this so that women, for example, working women, is able to take advantage and use such technologies for themselves. And not just that, but we also see that once the baby is already in the womb and the baby being delivered, we see that we also have to implement other ways into helping women to be able to take care of their babies during the early stages. And we can see that we could do this with ways such as allowing women to take a few months off while still being able to work for the company through their homes, for example, right? But we see that at least if we are able to take advantage of this artificial wombs, the women themselves doesn't have to miss as much work, and this is what allows them to be able to be on a more equal, to not lose as much advantage as the men. Two main arguments on supporting the usage of artificial wombs as a feminist movement. On one, why it's in line with the goal of feminist movements, and secondly, on why it doesn't force the women themselves to make a trade-off between their job and the family life, right? Yeah, go on.
Can you illustrate what you mean by advocating?
You mean by the feminist movement supporting this, right? The feminist movement could then, for example, have protests, for example, or try to convince the government, for example, to support such programs in order and implement them into, for example, allowing it to be such an option for women to like bear the baby, for example, in hospitals and stuff, right? And like being and supporting giving subsidies, for example. It's just basically convincing the government to do so. First argument on like the goal of feminist movement themselves. The goal of feminist movement is for the equality of women, and so that they have to, like, they're able to get the same opportunities and have the same choices as men. And currently, they already, like, the women themselves already have a disadvantage because of like the bearing of the baby itself, which is something that the men does not cannot do, and hence like it's something that the men like sort of have like a slight advantage of because they don't have to like take care of this baby and, for example, eat right, cannot like work harder labors and stuff over that period of time, right? And so this right here, we see that there's already a level of disadvantage because now like the women themselves like they have to take the responsibility, like there's a responsibility that they already have to take, and this itself not yet to them. Yeah, and this already and the fact that women already is able, like, sometimes will have like these babies already put them as a disadvantage because we'll see that there'll be companies, for example, who doesn't want to appoint women into such positions, into certain projects, because they see that within, like, for example, in 9 months' time, the women themselves will have to miss some jobs, for example, because they have to, like, they have to bear the baby, for example, or, and this means that the women themselves are going to be losing out on these particular opportunities. But what happens when we implement these like artificial wombs in the women? That means that the women themselves have got an option so that they can, like, even if they actually want to and not lose out on the work, they can actually go into such programs and not to care for the baby themselves, but allowing their baby, their wombs to be grown in a different place, and that means they don't actually have to lose like this disadvantage, like not having to lose this disadvantage, which means like it actually allows women to be more equal within the working place and be seen like not having disadvantage by the police, for example, right? Second argument on why. On why like such on why like it actually, like, this program doesn't force women to make like some trade-offs, right? Because currently the trade-offs that the women have to make when they want to have a family and have a baby is that they have to choose whether like they want to like take care of the baby and maybe possibly lose a bit of their jobs, or to actually just do a job but possibly lose out on the fact that they might possibly want to have, right? Especially the younger people who might see like that's the only time that they can actually have like a baby and they're healthy enough to do so, but at the same time would be the same time that the woman might be as productive as they could be in their lives, right? And so like so even like if like both sides could agree like that once the woman like already has a baby, then they could still provide the same. We still see that like if the woman hasn't bear the baby themselves, there's still this sort of a crucial period of time which the woman would lose out, and usually many of the times these like a few months could mean a lot to them in terms of their job opportunities. Maybe it's the period where like a big project comes in and they miss such things, right? And so now once women doesn't have to bear as much responsibility like through like, and it actually means it actually makes them more free from like having to bear responsibility and having to make this option. So now they no longer have to simply lose out on their work just because like they're gonna have like a kid, and it allows them to make more choices, be more free, and actually not lose out on the economic abilities. That means they can actually also even take care of the baby once the baby comes out, not having to lose out upon their jobs as the companies might want them to do. And for these reasons, we're proudly proposed.
Thanks for that speech and the video of the opposition.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. The last show is very dark. Can I just close the curtain?
Okay. Silhouette.
Yeah. Can you just close the curtain?
That was a pretty cool Okay, there are light switches next to the people on this side to turn the lights on.
Oh. It's better like it's okay.
Thank you.
What's this? Ah, it's
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So the case we got so far from the opening government is that women face a large extent of discrimination in many areas like the workplace, for example, and etc. And that using this to be the solution to all of those discrimination. I think what they don't speak up in that speech is that there are a large portion of women who would choose to not do this, and those women are still going to face those same discrimination. I think given at the point where you have many of these discriminations going on, the sort of fights we've been doing in status quo, which is fighting directly against those discriminations, for example, asking for things like paternal leave, maternal leave in many instances, is the exact fight that we need to go for, because that is one that is more inclusive, regardless of whether this technology exists or not. I think the fight ought to be for what it includes the most amount of women, i.e. if you fight for many of these leaves, for example, or fight against those discriminations, that means that many women who actually choose to use these products can actually do so, and you don't actually harm the vast majority of women who choose not to do so at all. But the second thing I want to point out is this idea that the premise in their case is simply that pregnancy is ultimately and inherently bad in itself. I don't think that's the case, and I don't think you can have any objective stance as to whether pregnancy is bad or not. I think it ought to be left to women who would decide whether they think pregnancy is something that's empowering to them, whether pregnancy is something that they ought to do, or whether they shouldn't do it at all in this debate. Three things I'm going to bring to you in my speech. Firstly, why we think the negative connotations of pregnancy are likely to exist on this side of the house, why we think it's likely to be worse off on this side. But secondly, why you're more likely to face a tougher discrimination battle and other battles that you actually have women facing in state school. And then to explain why they are really more important fights that you can take on. There's no reason for you to use political capital through using this most controversial issue that is in no way intersectional in dealing with all feminist issues at all in this debate. On the first issue, why we think you have negative connotations of pregnancy. I just want to point out here that women have always been seen as selfish for choosing to be pregnant into school. That is to say, many women who are pregnant are seen as undesirable. They're seen as just wanting to please themselves and their own spouse, for example, or if they choose to actually not take care of that child or do something different, they're actually seen as being selfish in that instance. Or many women being fat shamed, for example, when they do add pregnancy weight in many instances. I think that those are the sort of battles that we already have in status quo. And that means that that's already an issue that we're already fighting against, and it's an uphill battle that women are already taking on in status quo. What you do on your side of the house is stack up the difficulties that many of these women have to go through in various instances. And the way in which you know that women are already going against these battles in many instances successfully is sort of like campaigns that you see online in which you have celebrities, in their pregnancy pictures and many things like they're being proud to be a mother and all of those examples. I think those are just examples of how we're able to say that the patriarchy has told us that we can't be proud for being pregnant, that we can't be proud in motherhood and having a child, but we are fighting against this in many cases. That's a message that has been strongly appealing to many women, and it's a direct refutation to the idea that you're so being pregnant, you're undesirable for being pregnant in any way. But I think what you do on this side is when you say, as the feminist movement, that there is this alternative technology that is able to take on this child. That definitely means that you choosing to take on this child is you accepting all of those burdens of doing so. That's for the vast majority of women who don't want to actually take on this child. That is a message that you send to our society, that they are doing something wrong for not actually using this technology, and they are actually selfish for not using this technology. And then you make all those sort of fights a lot harder for many of these women in status quo. Because obviously this technology makes it worse for feminist movements. And we think what we ought to do as a feminist movement is to simply not take a stance in this debate. I think that that's something that is important, that you don't endorse something as a movement, because what it then means is that the feminist movement says that this is feminist. That means that by definition, not taking on that technology is not feminist at all. I think that what you do is use this as a tool to beat down women who don't want to actually take on these things at all in status quo. But I just want to point out that this motion expects them to do something more than just endorsing this. It expects them to prioritize this in advocacy, to prioritize the usage. That means you tell many women that you have to use these things in status quo. I think that means that by and large, you actually exclude many women in. Why do you think that this thing is bad? Because firstly, there's just no objective standard on what exactly is empowering to women. I think women ought to choose what exactly they find empowering, especially when it comes to something as personal as pregnancy. That some people might want to feel that kick, or some people might want to feel the ability to actually feel that their mothers or something that they see as traditional in many instances. But secondly, It's also about women who don't want to have a child. And in many instances, what you tell them is that it's just a selfish decision because now you're not going through the pregnancy and therefore you should actually do so in status quo. I think that many women actually have other reasons for not wanting to have a child, for example, not wanting to actually take care of that child all through those years. I think you make those fights a lot harder and make respecting the woman's decision a lot harder on your side of the house. But secondly, I think workplace discrimination is extremely important in this debate because in status quo, there's a lot of difficulty of women in the workplace. Employers see pregnancy as an unfair decision by the mother that they actually need to take up by paying in many instances. That's why in most parts of the world, you don't have things like maternal and paternal leave. In many instances, even when you have those things, you don't have paternal leave. That means that you actually make the work exclusively on women in status quo. What you do on your side is send a message that women can actually choose not to have this children, to have this pregnancy at all. That means you have difficulty in three main areas. Firstly, you're more likely to have the wage gap stagnating and even getting worse on this side of the house because women are now seen as non-priority employment in many instances, or at least women who are actually asked if they do want to give birth at all in state school are actually seen as non-priorities. That means that often you're actually not employing as many women as possible, and that's something that affects the extent to which women can actually earn in status quo. Because what happens is you're more likely to employ the man because you know that you're not going to actually have that extra burden in status quo. Or in many cases, even if you do employ that woman, you're not likely to have things like ensuring that when they leave and they come back, their work is actually safe in status quo. Or you're more likely to like replace that woman with a man who.
If women are now no longer leaving the office to have their children, how are they all of a sudden a greater burden to their employer?
Yeah, right. All women would not leave, one. And two, the fight for you to actually be with your child is a lot harder because that is more likely to be seen as selfish as opposed to you being pregnant and wanting to take care of that child or maybe resting at home through pregnancy. I think that's a fight that's a lot harder on your side, right? But thirdly, I think so just explain this issue of maternal and paternal leave, right? I think what's important on this side is that the idea of you leaving is one that is seen as unselfish, especially when you want to return back and get your job back. I think what's most likely going to happen is that you get excluded and actually replaced by someone else, who's a man, for example, who doesn't have a chance of actually leaving that work, or a woman who doesn't want to actually give birth in status quo. But thirdly, and more importantly, is that there are literally more important fights for you to take on in this debate. And I think there's an inherent exclusion in this debate and like a mutual exclusion in this debate because one, you're prioritizing this fight, and secondly, the sort of pushbacks you're going to get in the political sphere means that you're going to actually have to fight a lot more on this issue. That means you're neglecting the vast majority of issues that affect women. I don't want to point out and simply say that other issues are arbitrarily more important. But what I think is important is that you deal with issues that are more intersectional as opposed to an issue that is controversial, that is going to take away your political capital, and is one that also actually affect all women in status quo. Extremely proud of this.
Thanks for that speech, and I invite the Deputy Comments to the control. Here.
As a woman, I could safely say that if I could choose to have a child without having to feel pain, without having to hinder or compromise my economic empowerment, that would actually be the choice that I would choose. What their side actually have to prove for their entire case to actually run is why most women wouldn't choose this option, where they could actually forego pain and actually get an economic advancement, while all these benefits by our side and their side, as my team has said, will not actually be a choice that women would make, when this would actually improve their livelihoods to begin with. We also think that when their side, they say that, oh, women will want to have some sort of motherhood that's associated with not like opting out. We think that as much as we think that there's that choice. We want to be able to open another choice for women to actually then go out and actually choose a path for economic development to begin with. We also think that and would like to emphasize that in itself, motherhood is a lot of it also comes from the nurturing of the child, especially when the mother herself cannot actually be capable of to be pregnant and to do work at the same time. We think we actually provide a better alternative for these children, especially when, for example, if these mothers are then forced to work in harsh conditions in developing countries, for example, whilst they're pregnant, this would actually hurt the livelihoods of the babies themselves. We think on our side we are actually protecting both the mothers and the child. Okay, now a few rebuttals before I go into my argument. First, we think that the narrative of being selfish, that you have some sort of selfishness of pregnancy, is actually going to exist on both sides. For their argument to work and say that there's a larger amount of women who are going to be left behind, they have to first prove why a lot of women will not opt for this option to begin with. No suggestion coming from their side. We also think that sit down. I'll take you after this. And we also think that in order to say how this stigma would actually exacerbate, we think that we don't actually think it'll actually exacerbate the problem in the sense where on our side we're actually taking away the root of where this stigma is actually stemming from to begin with. What we're doing then is we're actually like allowing for a way to actually reverse this stigma to begin with. Now, how would this actually help improve the livelihoods, not just for women, but for everyone in general? We think that when we see, for example, the fears that are happening right now in aging populations, for example, we see that now that, like in aging, for example, the economy is like slowly, the activity of the economy is slowly decreasing, and the livelihoods of this woman then will actually get like affected by these people. And in their face, there'll be all these propagandas to like bear children, to now be like go be mothers from the children, to leave the workplace. We think this will actually then regress the narratives that we've been fighting for an entire long time. For that women aren't just child bearers, that women can be more than that. We think that with all these propaganda will actually then just exacerbate the propaganda that's going to happen to make sure that women actually be go into like showering without this issue. We think that that's the trend that most countries are coming to. The trend that most developing countries, for example, like Japan, or even in countries like Germany, like where the progress is declining. Sure.
So what are you trading off in order to prioritize this for this? What are you trading off in order to prioritize this evidence?
Okay, sure. We're saying that maybe there are some women who would want to bear children the natural way, but we think that the majority of people would actually opt out for the path without pain. We actually opt out to the path that without pain. Actually opt out to the path that actually increases their livelihood. And we think that even for the women who are going to stay behind at home, we think that the best way to actually deal with these children, or actually to provide a livelihood for these children, is to actually let these mothers not be forced into bad working conditions, right? We think on our side, we actually allow for that to exist in the first place. We think that if women are going to continue to be hindered, if they're going to be seen as hindering the economy and being further blamed and being further pushed and being forced to shove these like child-bearing narratives down their throats, we think that in ops world, they don't actually tackle this trend to begin with. We want to further emphasize, and they want to further emphasize the fact of the child-bearing narrative to begin with. We also think that by increasing the efficiency of the workforce and providing productivity, we're actually not just improving the livelihoods of just the women, but actually the state itself. And we can agree, right? Especially in a developing economy where the conditions are inherently bad for everyone, but this would actually provide the livelihoods and greater lives for everyone in themselves if the labor force efficiency can actually be maximized. We also think that we see that in the status quo, when women are forced to then work and be pregnant at the same time, we see that actually the livelihoods of these babies are actually compromised. Not just the mother's livelihood, but the baby itself. We see that when babies are born, when the mothers are stressed, or the mothers are inhaling toxins that actually make these women disabled to begin with. We think we are actually the side that's protecting the livelihood of these babies to begin with. We're making sure that they're not that the women don't actually have to be pregnant or actually have a way out of having to have these two conditions at the same time. And especially when there's this inherent stigma against women, and that enforcement in law on their side to protect discrimination won't exist. We think in our world, what we do is when we economically empower women, we actually provide for a way for them to actually escape. We actually provide a way for them to actually escape out of poverty, for example, and then to better provide livelihoods for women. We think what we're doing now is stopping the narratives of making women just child-bearing exacerbate, right? We think we're taking away the inherent biological hindrance that's so deeply ingrained in structural roots, and we think we're taking it away. On their side, we think that they're all contingent on the fact that women wouldn't opt in, and even if they did, we think that the issue that they're suggesting is actually it exists on both sides. But actually, what we're doing is we're taking the inherent roots of the stigma away to begin with. We're proud to propose.
Thanks for that speech by the deputy leader of the opposition.
It's important to know that this debate exists beyond just the comparison on whether or not this research is good or bad. It's also a comparison of sacrificing other important discriminatory and empowerment fights for women for a controversial issue that is sure of, or not unsure of achieving success or even failure in society, right? So what side opening government did in today's debate is to zero all the problems women go through in the world to carrying babies in their womb, and the moment they can help them fight or solve this problem, all the problems women face in society is magically gone. So even if they want to say, probably after achieving this battle, they are going to come back and fight for other things that they would have otherwise prioritized, or otherwise at least campaign for or endorse on the side of the house, we'll tell you it's a bit too late, right? Because the opportunity cost that comes with you prioritizing this battle is one to which you have actually left other battles that are more intersectional or unifying at a very gray sort of a level to which you don't have those sort of popularities anymore. So one key thing I will be talking about in my speech in terms of extension is that under their side of the house, this research actually is born to fail. And we'll tell you how that has a worse outcome on women and the feminist movement itself, right? But before then, 3 key rebuttals that don't quite fit in. First, they said, all women would choose into this method, right? Ignoring that Eric already told you in the speech why vast majority of women won't opt in. He told you there are religious and cultural reasons, or the fact that they are just women that just want to experience pregnancy because they feel it's a form of building a connection between them and their baby, right? So we tell you these are vast majority of reasons why women want to carry babies within their womb. But secondly, it also harms those women the other set of women that won't opt in are those that don't entirely want to have babies on the side of the house, which was not engaged with. But then their priority is it's important to kind of coerce of put women in this consciousness that they have to buy into this technology because the process of having babies through the womb itself, it's painful. Right? We tell you these sort of things are actually things women look forward to sometimes even in going through these experiences on the side of the house, right? So we tell you that even for those that want to opt into this, right, we tell you it's not entirely a hope of failure on our side of the house. All you have to do as a feminist movement is to keep quiet about it. Don't endorse it or don't express it in any other manner. We don't think the research itself will die in that way because we think there are other incentives to keep the research going, which will be well explained within my speech. Second, on this idea of coercion of people that struggle, right? So okay, I think I already kind of hinted on that, right? So the idea is not that the research is the continuity of the research or the outcome of the research, but the effect of prioritizing the endorsement, right? So meaning, like, on their side of the house, a feminist movement that is already facing an uphill battle in fighting for empowerment and choice on their side of the house is one that is now using the same feminist label to rule up an objective choice for all women to opt into. We tell you this is a far worse form of coercion on their side of the house, and this is something that is unfair because it's something that we all cannot have, and all women cannot have an objective stand on, right? So we tell you this harm all other form of unifying intersectional achievement that would have achieved on our side of the house if we have prioritized all these other unifying things, and this is what makes the feminist movement in particularly more appealing in society, especially to oppositions, right? So how is this research then bound to fail on your side of the house? We'll tell you that if we're to look at the nature of the research in current status quo, right, we tell you researchers are still clamoring and pushing for this research to go on through things such as claiming it's a biological way to help women in terms of solving issues that come with having babies, or in terms of issues that come within the maternity ward and those circumstances. We tell you these are more appealing issues to which even people from both ends of spectrum in terms of conservativeness or liberal can buy into, and this is where you attract more and more funding and sponsorship of this research, right? What they do on the side of the house is make this political through feminist movement endorsing it. Wow, right? So if you're telling me a movement that's already facing all this, like a vast majority of uphill battles, right? You making it political makes it easier for opposition to clamor down the research, because how they see it is an attack, probably against their culture, against their religion, or against even their principal values. I'm not mistaken, right? I'm not saying these fights are not worth fighting for. We'll tell you that, but then it's kind of harm the sort of ways to make this fight easier in society. So we tell you the best way for feminist movement to fight for this research to go on is them to strategically keeping quiet about it and let it to remain the biological way of helping, like of helping irregularities that exist within maternity, because we think that's more appealing to oppositions, right? So how does this have a fast outcome effect on women? Firstly, right, we'll tell you that if you have put all your eggs in the basket of clamoring for this campaign, right? So the idea is you remove the entire idea of choice, to which we talked to you about in Eric's speech, right? But more importantly, right, all the political fights that you want to talk on your side is something that becomes harder, like we had in the POI, right? It makes it easier for women to not go to work, right? So we tell you that for vast majority of reasons, right, women don't just like want maternity leave because they're pregnant. They also want to take up care of their infant babies and stuff like that on the side of the house. But if you remove this public excuse of the fact that, you know what, I'm pregnant and I need to leave, right, we tell you that it makes it harder for you to achieve those sort of maternity fights on your side of the house, because the key excuse now is it's not, oh, but no one was asking, so yeah. So the key excuse that comes on the side of the house is you're selfish and it's totally unnecessary. But how does it entirely affect the feminist movement, right? So we need to look at this because like how feminist movement is being viewed in society, especially in non-Western democracy, right? So they still view feminist movement as a whitewash and something that is just there to attack their culture and religion and things like that. You advocating for things like this is things they felt particularly like personally attacked and stuff like that. These are what makes the extension of feminists within this region a lot harder in terms of acceptance, right? So if what they want to claim is that, yeah, but it's the right of women within this area, we tell you the best way to fight for the right of empowerment of women in this region is not solely like declaring a war to them, but slowly penetrating them through things first they're able to relate with, and then through achieving those things, you can then push for other things that are more and more controversial and more provocative on the side of them. But you just pushing provocative issue at one is one to which they obviously kicked out within minutes and instances, right? And these are how you harm the empowerment of women with these localities in entirety, right? So this debate is not about like whether or not like the research itself is as important as that, but the feminist movement making strategic decisions in how to achieve those sort of balances, and this is what we try to strive to achieve on our side.
Thanks for that speech. I invite the member speaker for the government.
The upper house has characterized the debate thus far as imbalance and inclusivity. In closing government, we're proud to bring 3 unique extensions on the idea of imbalance, how that actually impacts society and today, how we will create a new wave of feminists that will change the world in the future, and completely eliminate any sort of claims on inclusivity from the opposition. So first, let me begin with rebuttals. First, let me say that the opposition not only claims that they will A, not take a stance, but B, claims that the best strategy is to keep quiet and not do anything. They themselves have claimed that there are harms in the status quo, yet they refuse to take action. Instead, they'll wait for some later nebulously defined severe type of political movement. We reject this on its face. We say that life is inclusive, we say that choice is inclusive, we say that equality is inclusive, and yes, feminism is inclusive. And we will bring that to you in unique extensions later on. So first, let's go through their rebuttals one by one. They bring to you 4 major claims. First, on negative connotations, second, on workplace discrimination, third, that there are more important fights, and fourth, prioritization. So first, on the point of negative connotation, they will claim to you today that women are seen as selfish for taking pregnancy. We have 3 responses. First, women are less selfish under our proposed plan because they take less time away from the workplace. Their idea of selfishness, spending time with, spending time with your son or daughter or your baby is inherent on both cases. Just because a mom has a baby and they're either on maternity leave or they're not doesn't mean that they don't want to spend time with their child. Maternity leave will still take place under both responses. Second, our opponent has used an example to contradict himself. So what he claims is that patriarchy says that pregnancy is selfish. Then they use an example of celebrities going on Instagram celebrating their pregnancy. Well, clearly what we see is that these actions of pregnant women, Gwyneth Paltrow, for example, are celebrated the world over. This is not seen as selfish. No, thank you. This is seen as empowering. And third, even in the status quo, we would argue that current policies are already solving this. They've even admitted women are going out on Instagram, they're going out on Facebook, they're going out on social media channels, no thank you, and they're celebrating this idea of pregnancy. So that claim falls. They also will bring to you today that excluding women because of choice and this feminist movement shouldn't tell women what to do. This is laughable. A social movement inherently necessitates the changing of hearts and minds that results in the changing of action. Did Martin Luther King Jr., did Malcolm X go in front of the throngs to simply preach their ideas without expecting some sort of response? Yes, we agree that we shouldn't, no thank you, dictate exactly what 100% of women should do, but that's exactly our point, because we're saying women have the option to do this. Yes, we are prioritizing it, we are suggesting it, not only because of the health benefits, economic benefits, the social benefits, and the political benefits that will bring to you in our extension, no thank you, but it's not forced. Our opponents have seemed to conflate the ideas of prioritization with compulsory action. This is simply flawed. No, thank you. They then bring to us this idea of workplace discrimination. Later on in my extension, I will refute this in its entirety, all 3 layers of analysis that they promised, but only 2 that they provided. Next, on to more important fights. 2 responses. First, this is simply an intellectually lazy argument. Right? They say there are more important things for us to do here. No, there are not. Women and babies everywhere in the world deserve our time and care. We are here today to debate on this very issue. Simply lazy. Second, they argue on this exclusive, and we will provide to you that prioritizing life is in fact inclusive. Anything that they can provide to you today. They will claim to you that suggesting this policy for women and for feminists is uninclusive, is that it's quote unquote not intersectional enough. We bring you today that providing life is the most intersectional and most inclusive policy of all. They bring us prioritization are right? They see you that it harms us, but they didn't provide an example of how they explain why they provide no record or link for this argument. On our extension. So our opening house provided this idea of imbalance. They say that there's preventing action. They say that they're not the same opportunities for men and women in the workplace, but they never fully explain why. We bring to you 3 levels of unique analysis. First on health, second on equality, on the new rise. So onto our principle on health. We propose to you in CG that the health and life of mothers and babies is the single most important discussion point in this debate. This seem to disagree.
So the thing that will happen to your side is that you have to trade off advocating for maternity leave, advocating for better prenatal care, and that's the kind of life and health you will trade off inside. Justify it.
Understood. Thank you. We in fact don't believe that trade-off is necessary. We believe that maternity leave is still possible when you have a baby in utero today. When you have a baby in a still maternity. No, thank you. Also, we would have argued on a health point, which I'll bring to you in a moment, that the increase of data that we would get from these babies being born in extracorporeal pregnancies, which was far longer, positive. So, on the health, no thank you. The health of the mother increase in the first and second country. obvious problem we can agree on today, that the world over in developed countries, we have a serious mortality issue. When we take this baby outside of the mother, we increase the risk, or we decrease the risk that they will pass away in pregnancy. But secondly, in the countries, the United States still is a problem, no thank you, with this issue. The United States ranks something like 40th in the world for mortality rates of mothers. This is an issue that is completely going unnoticed. So no thank you. What happens here is that we prioritize the health of the baby. This is the crucial impact that we need in CG. So we can monitor the baby's health when the baby is produced appropriately. They cannot. We can bring to unique data analysis. They cannot. We can provide day-by-day analysis, change the nutrition, change the conditions of the baby, maximize the probability this baby is born healthy. So, next, quality. Equality of opportunity, equality of outcome. These are the ideas that we bring to you with educational, social, economic, political events. So the idea of opportunity. If a woman is able to delay pregnancy, now until their 40s or 50s, they are able not only to delay their age, they can have timing with their children, and they increase career opportunities. That can now with you. But also, equality of outcome. In today's world, women make 77 cents a dollar of men. Fewer than 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. Fewer than 1% of heads of country women. Under our plan, what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the pay gap, reduce the executive gap, we're going to reduce the gap in politicians, because women are able to delay certain career actions by not having babies, taking themselves out of the workforce. Analysis from the brought to you, but they didn't fully explain. And now on this idea, the new rise of feminism. What we bring to you to the CG is a new generation of role models. What we bring to you is that when we are able to ascend to top flight politics, ascend top flights of business, when they will be social advocates without having to take personal time and bedridden or hospital to give themselves, what we're able to do is we're able to perpetuate and modernize feminism as an entity. And that's something that's unique in CG. So with this idea of moving forward, with this idea of increasing health, with this idea of increasing equality, we could argue both health and equality are important. Then they're intersectionals. We are proud. We must take a stand. We should all be humanists. We should all be feminists. We should all support artificial wombs and extracorporeal pregnancies. We are proud to be feminist. We are proud.
Thanks for that speech, and I invite the member speaker of the opposition.
It's an unfortunate reality that to dump patriarchal men who doesn't understand the concept of choice, the only major argument that a woman can always bring to not have a baby or to not conceive is the argument. It's by saying that I do not want it, I don't want that baby, I don't want a child, because like, it actually harm me as a person because I'm there. But we think that's the kind of argument that would not happen in their world, when they have alternatives in which you want to advocate the research of an artificial womb, because you can't say that because there's already an alternative that doesn't harm you. Therefore, men in Pakistan have all the power to choose when to have a child, and we think that's harmful for women, because they will be, at the end of the day, the person who will take care of this child at home, take the brunt of the responsibility. But before we move on to the debate, let's follow a bit Firstly, we think, notice how opening government have failed in in their roles actually provide to us for us to actually do this, right? Because they told us what this movement will actually need to do this, right? Firstly, they have never told us what is actually the problem to why this research is actually going forward and how effective it will be. So we think, in that at least, we think that there was no modality to what these problems want to solve and it will be. So we will actually do their job. We will assume that when feminist movement actually do this, what is the tons amount of money of NGOs of people who they have an influence on to actually back research, right? That means that research will actually having be split up. We will actually, for instance, the ability to have artificial womb for women at the end of the day, right? But secondly, what happens is also feminists will also inherently say that choice is more valuable, inherently disappointing. So before that, secondly, let's have a few responses towards the side of the government. Firstly, they also government told us that there's a difference between prioritizing and having a compulsory action. But we don't think so, because this doesn't respond to the delineation that opening government wanted to tell you. That when we do this, there is a trade-off because there's limited amount of capital will, political will, there's a limited amount of resources we put, right? This was the response from opening government. Because within that trade-off, you would say that having pregnant woman going through normal pregnancy is something that's firstly less of a legitimate choice because you can always opt into this other choice. But secondly, because you spend a lot of your time on TV shows and support groups saying how this is a better choice. What happens is women who wants to have pregnancy the normal would feel that what they do is illegitimate. But secondly, they told us, guys, this proposal will magically solve all the problems you have in work, right? Wage gap, we have like less discrimination and so on and so forth. I don't think so. Firstly, we told you that it actually solved because firstly, those things don't actually accrue because we already have discriminatory policies to combat those things anyway. Things such as like you don't have to pay the same amount of wages. Secondly, things such as like access towards healthcare for if they actually want to have a baby the old-fashioned way, right? Thirdly, for instance, you can't fire a woman just because they're pregnant. Those are all kinds of policies that have existed, that have existed anyway. They need to tell us how this is a unique solution to a problem, right? To their problem. Let's go on to it. So firstly, we'll change the context to where this debate happens. Then secondly, I'll go on into my arguments. So firstly, we think that this debate have been really inclusive towards like developed countries, for instance. We don't think those are the people who are most vulnerable in this stakeholder, right? We think the women who are most vulnerable in this debate is actually developing country women. Why? Two reasons. Firstly, these are the people who have most pressure to actually have a child because the comparative is if they want to talk about the woman who actually can choose to not have a child or not, the only difference for them is to have a baby in the woman. But those are also women who are really quite privileged and live in like Western countries and so on and so forth. But secondly, we think what happens is women in developed countries in the developed countries and Western countries can actually opt into not having a child or having a child. Therefore, we think those people can less in this debate, right? We think that the stakeholder that opening government wants to talk about, and to some extent closing government, is like white woman who wants to have a baby but don't want to actually bear them. And we think those stakeholders is not as important. Why? Firstly, they have enormous amounts towards healthcare, so bearing a child isn't actually that much of a problem to them, right? They have better hospitals, for instance, at the end of the day. They have medical advances, they have huge amount of support for having healthcare in workplaces. So the question here is, who is the most vulnerable? I think what happens is developing country context is more important because because on the long term, what happens is culture and religion will inherently say the baby is like impure, for instance, because the baby wasn't inside the womb, right? We have seen this, for instance, in developing countries where religion say, for instance, like engineering your baby is something that you can't do, right? Secondly, we think what happens is because women in those spaces already buy into the idea that motherhood is inherently linked to pregnancy. So how are we going to win this debate? So firstly, we tell you that what happens is there will be less choice for these women in these developing countries. So assuming in their world you have access towards like this thing happens, what happens is a lot of women will be forced into opting into this choice because they can't say that they do not want to have a child because of health issues, because the baby is not already in their womb. We think on the metric of like having choices, what happens is in the developing country, a lot of women won't be able to say no. All those women will be forced to actually have a child, right? And we think that's inherently harmful because they're the people who actually have to stay at home to take care of the child, to not actually be able to go to work, for instance, or to actually like continue the education because they have to take care of the child in their world, right? We think it's inherently harmful for this woman for that closing, yeah.
These vulnerable women, as you say, won't you do everything in your power to help them improve their health outcomes for both themselves and their babies?
We think what happens in our world is because you're forced to have the baby inside in your womb, what happens is there's enormous amounts of pressure to give better health care to you, for instance, because that's the only way for you to have a baby, right? All the more political will disappear in your world in support of this pregnant woman because you have an artificial womb that men can always use to say that you don't have that problem anymore. But secondly, how does it affect the mothers in this developing country, right? On the short scale, what happens is this. Firstly, what happens is we think on a first level, we think that this technology, when it exists, wouldn't be as accessible, right? We think it will be expensive, and we think that the technology will be hard to to be available towards developing countries and so on. We think on the short term, what happens is a lot of your benefits only accrue towards a really privileged women who can access this technology, and we think what happens towards developing countries women, because you took away all the political capital to actually support these women to have better healthcare and so on. What happens is these women are left with less healthcare to actually have a baby, right? Because they will be forced to have a baby the old-fashioned way. And secondly, what happens is, we think what happens is the choice that they have also be considered less legitimate. Therefore, we think they feel less empowering having a choice that way. But we think, secondly, even in the long term, when it's more accessible to those women, what happens is, like, first, you would actually, men will actually force you to have the baby. But secondly, we think what happens is, on the long term, some women will inherently be disattached because they will say that the choice that the developing woman has is something that's illegitimate because it endangers you. We think for women in those developing countries, we have to give them the support of having better hospitals, etc.
Thanks for that speech, and I invite the government with the floor. Thank you.
Now, earlier in the debate, the upper house talked to you about the importance of equal opportunities and having career choices in the workplace and at home. Now, we believe that this is incredibly important. We are not saying that this should not be considered in this debate. Now, as a feminist movement, however, there are two other areas that we need to focus on. One is reducing the health risks in the short term, and second is to actually provide innovative solutions, because the ones we have right now are not working. Now, first of all, before I move on to my rebuttals and then highlighting the extensions that my partner provided and then moving on to the three clashes, I would like to emphasize the fact that this is not mutually exclusive. You can still have maternity leave and also have artificial womb at the same time. I will later explain the fact that the opposition failed to explain exactly why they are mutually exclusive. And secondly, this is not about forcing women to pursue this option. I understand that perhaps this conversation may not have happened as much. However, this is a choice that we are providing more choices for women, both in developing nations and developed nation. Now, I would like to talk about explain the fact that first, in order to actually provide equal opportunity for women and men, we need to reduce the health risks first. The current situation is that both in the United States, UK, and especially in developing nations, the risks of death for women and baby are astronomically high later. Now, secondly, we need to provide innovative solutions for future generations, because the current feminist movement is stagnant, despite the fact that people are actually trying to make efforts into maternity leaves and paternity leaves. See, Fortune 500 CEOs, only 3% of them are women still, and there is not much progress that is going on. Now, before I move on to highlighting my extensions, I have three rebuttals. First, to the member of opposition, first, they stated that developing countries will not benefit from this policy. However, first of all, they failed to explain exactly why women will not benefit from this policy. And secondly, even if they had explained that, it is more important to provide safer options. Do we simply not give contraceptive options or any of these birth control options simply because people may not be more receptive to it? This is not a solution that you provide developing countries just because they will not have this conversation anymore. My second rebuttal is the fact that they stated that there are fewer choices for women. Now, we believe that that is not the case because, once again, they failed to provide to explain exactly why this is the case. Now, however, even if they did, we believe that this is simply an option that we are giving women. And I will talk a little bit more about the technology argument that they give before I move on. Yes.
Right. So this debate is not about the pros and cons or existence of this technology. Maternity leave is already difficult when you're visibly pregnant. Why would it be easier when you just want to spend time with your child?
Yeah. I would say that you can still spend time with your child. It's not the fact that you're not this artificial womb debate is about the mechanism of which the woman has the child. Actually, in reality, you will be able to prioritize more on the idea and the spending time with the kid because you are actually able to realize that actually I was able to work during those years that I would have spent missing out on my career development. And so once you have the child, you actually spend more time with them and you actually prioritize on the education that you offer for the child and all the important things that a child needs. Thirdly, my rebuttal. The opposition, the closing opposition told you that the technology is going to cost a lot. Of course it is going to cost a lot at the beginning. However, every technology that is developed, as time passes, the cost goes down. And as it spreads, more people will be using it. Not only that, this will actually have a positive impact on all the industries that are currently stagnant. There have not been enough developments within this area to actually progress for the feminist movement. In addition to that, we believe that more people will be able to go to work and actually have a positive impact on the economy as a whole. Now, my partner provided a phenomenal extension earlier, where first he talked about the social impact, second about health, and then third about equal opportunity. Now, first about social impact, we believe that this provides an opportunity for women to become role models for future generations. This is a new form of feminist movement. We're not just focusing on the status quo, but we are actually developing new technologies to make a larger difference. Not only that, we are providing women to become role models to show that you can have both kids and have a career at the same time. Yes, I understand that some people don't want to have kids. That's fine. The option is there. We're not forcing people to not have to have kids. Now, secondly, regarding equal opportunity, not only did we talk about the short term, but we also talked about the longer term impacts. We talked about the opening teams talked about how this will have a positive impact in the career in the near term, but we believe that this also has equal outcome in the long term because we are actually allowing women to delay having children, to get their master's degree, to get their PhD and whatnot, which is not an option right now. Because you know what? When you're 23 to 35, your parents are forcing you to have kids because later on your body is not fit enough to do so. Now, lastly, on the health, we believe that the life of baby and mother is most important. This artificial womb will decrease the risk of death from pregnancy that is currently existing and very, very prominent. Now, because I'm running out of time, I'm going to move on to 3 clashes. First, we talked about whether this limits women or not. Second, we talked about feminist movement both in terms of short-term and long-term. In terms of the first clash, whether it limits women or not, this does not, because we are actually providing women with more options in a more innovative way and giving opportunity for women to actually pursue their career, pursue education, and to not have and to give women choice right now, to give women choice because they're no longer that biological tie or limitations. Second, in terms of feminist movement, short-term and long-term. Short-term, we were able to tell you that we can provide career opportunities and also delay the timing. In the long-term, we are able to present more role models for future generations and for kids and women. Thank you.
Thanks for that speech. I invite the opposition.
cannot co-opt all benefits and all mechanisms. This is a debate in which the feminist movements have to make a judgment call as to what is more important for them today to prioritize and what is okay for them to trade off. That's why I POI both teams asking them what do they trade off. Both teams never told us exactly what. And that's why opposition then came in and told you that the things that they are trading off is current status quo mechanisms to help current mothers and protect them in their healthcare and giving them support. So what this means is that advocating for better prenatal healthcare is advocating for better healthcare when you are going to give birth to your child. It's advocating for better maternal leave and so on and so forth. And these are all contingent upon the feminist movements advocating for this stuff and pushing for these policies to exist, but also contingent upon these mothers actually being pregnant and having that choice to be pregnant being seen as something that is more valid or is important. So how will closing government win this debate, closing opposition win this debate? Two metrics in winning this debate. Number one, does it really help choice? And we're going to tell you how it doesn't help choice under their side. But number two, do we protect the most vulnerable people within society? And as a feminist movement, do we protect the most vulnerable people? So let's first talk about, does it really help choice, and necessarily how does then the choice argument play out in the debate? So as a feminist movement, what should we prioritize is the ability to maximize choice and the ability to ensure that a lot more people have a lot more choices. At least when people make those choices, they are being given the support that they need. So what came from opening government, what came from government as a whole, is this whole idea of how, we will maximize choice because of the whole, because now people can just choose to become to have kids without actually having to become pregnant. The problem coming from the problem with government side is that they don't understand that choice is not a choice, or that choice to advocate for that choice is not a choice in a vacuum. That when you make that choice, when as a feminist movement you make that choice to advocate for that choice, you impact other choices also. So before I move into the whole impacting of other choices, I'll talk about what they argued as to why this is more of a maximization of choice. While closing government did try to impact the arguments that came from opening government, they're basically the same thing, the derivative of each other. I'm going to clump them together. So what came from both government sides was this idea of how women cannot make the choice to have children because they have to make trade-offs, and that's necessarily bad. And secondly was this idea of how when you advocate for this, you make things better for everyone else in the whole world, and you like better stereotypes and better policy changes. Number one, we already told you, coming from Nopal, was this whole idea of how current mechanisms exist. The current mechanisms to help this woman to make that choice and to then cater to that trade-off of that choice that exists, and it can help cater to that choice. But secondly, also, what happens under their side is that you make things worse for other people, you make things worse for the current mechanisms that exist. What this means is that when the feminist movements decide to prioritize this, that means that they have to take away resources from other advocacies, or from other policies that they want to push forward. And the front line of these advocacies that they will have to trade off is the current mechanisms such as prenatal care, such as maternal leave, and so on and so forth. And then secondly, they told us, but we make better policy changes, and we make things more inclusive, and we make sure that stereotypes go away. Number one, out of all four speeches, they've never told us how by advocating for this choice necessarily means that you take away the stereotype that women have to be the caring mother, that women have to stay at home and take care of the child, because you still make women have children anyway. How does that change anyway? Secondly, was CG trying to co-opt this whole idea of how we help developing nations. They never told us how they help developing nations necessarily, when we've already told you that this technology, even if it will go through, is a technology that will be expensive and inaccessible to the developing nations. Sure, it sounds nice, but we need to take care of their healthcare. But you need to tell us how that technology is necessarily accessible. Second part of this, how does advocacy then impact other choices? As a feminist movement, we have finite resources. We can't advocate for everything. It's already very true in status quo. It's already very true within the motion. And so what do they have to trade off? They have to trade off. They have to trade off two things. They have to trade off number one, they're saying that this is the more valuable choice. That choosing to have your outside of your womb is the more valuable choice, and choosing to have your child within your womb is the less valuable choice, and therefore the less valid choice. But secondly, is the fact that you have to also trade-off policies that actually are specific to these kinds of to natural pregnancies and so on and so forth. So in that sense, how do we then measure what to prioritize? Two ways in which we measure. Number one, the amount of people we help, and number two, the magnitude of something that we do. And this is something that Nopal has already told you. We told you that we help more people under our side because culture entrenches still the idea that you have to have a natural pregnancy. Religion still entrenches the idea that you have to have a natural pregnancy. But even more, right? We help more, and we relieve more a higher magnitude of suffering because the kind of people that opt for their mechanism are rich white women anyway. They have the money to opt for that. They have the money to cater to pregnancies anyway. To cater to natural pregnancies anyway. The people that you will leave out are developed nations who don't get to cater to those kinds of things, and you harm them. Protect the most vulnerable. So then the most vulnerable people and the outsiders. Currently, the way in which we protect the most vulnerable people is by ensuring the people who actually have this option in order to get have this option of getting natural pregnancies actually get the policy changes that they want to get in order to protect their natural pregnancy. We don't think that happens under their side. Even if it's true that in the long run, everyone will opt for this and everyone will have better healthcare, in that space of time in which you get the healthcare, all these women will still not get that good healthcare, and all these women are pregnant now, they need this help now. Even if they get the long term under their side, they will trade that up, whatever. These women in status quo need that help now. We think that it was better under our side. All these women go to see.
Thanks for that speech. Thanks for the debate. First of all, shake hands, hang around outside.